Peace be with you. Welcome to another edition of Let the Quran Speak. My name is Sophia. I'm your host. We'll be looking at the story of Marwa al-Sharbini, a 32-year-old who was murdered in Germany for wearing the headscarf. We'll also be taking a look at devotions to saints. Do Muslims view saints the same way that people from other faiths might view saints? And we'll begin with a verse from the Quran. With me is Brother Shabir Ali from the Islamic Information Center. Brother Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
My pleasure, Bia.
The verse we're dealing with is from Surah 7, it's verse 156, and it speaks about the mercy of God. Perhaps you'd like to briefly describe what the verse says.
Yeah, basically it says that the mercy of God is all-embracing, whereas He will punish those who deserve His punishment. So the verse causes us to think about the contrast between the punishment which comes from God, which is of a limited duration, and it is a targeted sort of punishment, whereas the mercy of God is all-embracing, and that stems from the nature of God. It does not require any sort of reason except to say, well, this is how God deals with His creatures. He's merciful to them, to one and all.
Mm-hmm. Are there other verses that confirm this idea that God's punishment is limited and His mercy is all-encompassing?
Yes. For example, in Surah 15, it says, نَبِّ عِبَادِي أَنِّي أَنَا الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ وَأَنَّ عَذَابِي هُوَ الْعَذَابُ الْأَلِيمُ. You should inform my servants that I am the forgiving and merciful one, and my punishment is severe. So Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, one of the classical Muslim scholars, said that this verse indicates that the God is forgiving, but His punishment is severe. It's not that God Himself is severe, the way this verse is worded. So the mercy of God and His forgiveness is related to Him as a person, but the punishment is not related to Him as a person. It's related to the creatures who do deeds that merit punishment. So the punishment that comes from God is severe. So there is a distinction between what God does by His own nature and what God does as a result of the actions of others. So His mercy, that comes from His own nature. The punishment, that's due to what others deserve.
Muslims often perceive God as being just. How does that fit in with this notion of mercy that seems all-encompassing?
Well, the justice and mercy are balanced in that justice may require some punishment to be meted out or some retribution to be exacted. But that does not prevent God from being merciful. If we think of a judge in this life, a judge may have certain rules to go by and certain prescribed punishments for certain crimes. And it will be within the prerogative of the judge to award such punishments. And yet the judge can look at the circumstances of the case, can look at certain motivating factors, and some of these factors may mitigate against the full awardment of the punishment that was normally prescribed. So the judge can leave some room for mercy here and exercise some mercy, even though there are certain prescribed punishments.
Now, looking at this verse, it does indicate or give some sort of indication to readers about how you can achieve or attain God's mercy. So it doesn't seem to be as limitless as it initially says.
Well, while it is, again, within God's prerogative to be completely merciful and to forgive everyone and so on, He will not do this arbitrarily. Another verse says, أَفَنَجْعَلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ. Are we going to treat the ones who submit similarly to the ones who are culprits? So if you have people who deliberately try to obey God, and then on the other hand, those who fully informed turn away from God and disobey Him, would it be right then for God to treat all of these people the same way? Obviously, He will give a reward to one and some punishment to the other. It is within God's prerogative to forgive everyone and not punish anyone. But because He has set things up like this, He will give some greater reward to those who choose to obey Him, and perhaps some punishment to those who deliberately disobey, so that the two are not treated alike, so that his decision is not just so arbitrary. He exacts justice where this is due.
How does this understanding of God's punishment and God's mercy affect a Muslim's life?
Well, on the one hand, it creates in Muslims a great sense of responsibility. A Muslim lives with the understanding that he or she will be accountable for every word uttered, every little deed. And so while we should not become too obsessed with this to the point of being overwhelmed by this great sense that we are being continuously watched by God and every one of our deeds are being accounted for, at the same time, it's helpful in that it gives Muslims that sense that they should walk on the straight and narrow, they should do that which is right. And if they do fail, and on the other hand, they have the hope in the mercy and the forgiveness of God.
Thank you for that,
You're welcome.
When we come back, we will look at the story of Marwa al-Sharbini, the woman who was killed in Germany.